All righty, we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 107 of the Blue Ribbon Podcast.
107.
107.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah. Um. So we'll start with a little wrap up. Uh, we was it? Has it been 2 weeks now since we went to the truck show?
March 25th.
Yeah, last week of March.
So
Been almost three
I
weeks.
think it's 3 weeks. Yeah.
So we went to the Mid America Truck Show. We had a pretty good time. Hung out with the Pittsburgh Power folks. Hung out in the Landstar booth. Met some of the listeners. That was fun. Sometimes it's a little weird, just because people are like, "Hey," and you know, just not used to it yet. I love it. Keep coming, but it's just weird.
It's unsettling when somebody knows you and you have no idea who they are,
Yeah. Um. So we had a great time. Um. Had a great company dinner. Handed out some awards, and just had a really good time. We have about 40 people at the dinner.
We did. We had 40 people, and we had a couple of people that we had one of our truck owners broke down on the way in an RV and couldn't get there. So,
Yeah.
but and we had all of our staff, all of our crew except one, was there. So
Had one of our drivers break down in the bar, and
that's that's true. We did have a casualty there.
yeah, apparently he's never heard that old saying: one tequila, two tequila, three tequila floor.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
three double shots knocked him down for a couple of days, and we didn't see much of him. Um,
Yeah, true. Now it was great. I mean, the first time we'd been able to go in since 2019, I guess.
yeah,
The show was a little underwhelming, not to be honest with you. I think maybe a lot of people just aren't back yet. The major the OEMs weren't there, and that was a disappointment because they always bring really, really nice,
yeah.
booths but anyway, it was good to see things face to face for first time in a while, and um, I didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
walk the show at all. I mean,
That's what I was going to say. I really can't comment on the quality of the show because I hadn't seen much of it. I saw Pittsburgh Power and I saw Landstar. That
yeah.
was about it.
Well, I'm just going by what people told me, and I did have to walk in and out of it to get to Landstar's booth and to get to Pittsburgh Power, but that's South Hall, I guess it is South, whatever it is up there, where normally all those OEMs are. That was just basically empty,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we spent all day Saturday, no, all day Friday, back in the West Wing, in and around Pittsburgh Power and some of our other vendors there, MD Alignment,
OPS.
Fleet Air Filter, OPS. Let's don't leave anybody out.
Got to hang out with Kevin a little bit. That was nice.
Kevin was at the Pittsburgh Power booth, and we did talk to him a little bit. Got caught up on him and his severance with Sirius XM. Got the inside scoop on that a little bit. So, and then of course Saturday we hung out the Landstar booth and just were available there. A lot of people come by that booth thinking that they can come drive for Landstar, but as you all well know, you have to have a truck, and so it's always convenient for us to be there and be available. Also, we prepared for some BCO mentoring conversations, and we did have a couple. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. That's an area that we have a little growth opportunity in because we have some capacity there that we with Seth that we didn't have before. So that's something we can also talk about. But it was a great thing. The dinner was awesome. I thought, we had a private dining room over at the hotel, and my wife Mary Lou spent a lot of time, with the decorations and all that kind of stuff, and I think it was a pretty good night. And we had a couple of Landstar guys there. One from the Arizona Field Operations Center, and then the cabs fellow from Indianapolis, and I think they left there pretty impressed with what we do. And just out of, I mean, it was just coincidence too. Landstar interviewed me about, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks ago for the next not episode, but what the hell you call it? Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is, the next printing of their magazine. They're doing an article on fleets at Landstar. So we're going to get that. I think that's coming out this week. And then I think as kind of as a spinoff of that, or maybe the presence that we had at the truck show, they invited me to be on their podcast, which we recorded on Thursday. So the next Landstar podcast, which by the way they told me is going to be their very first one they've ever put on YouTube. So it'll be YouTube and whatever their normal podcast platforms are. So it was a good talk. We talked about, I don't know, maybe an hour. About entrepreneurship and in particular what our business model, what we do here and how it's different. So it was fun. It's a good deal. So we're seeing all this noise now, Chris, about the upcoming Bloodbath.
Yeah.
So I thought we ought to take a little time and talk about that. I mean, it's not that we haven't talked about it. I started talking about probably the very first podcast you had me on. We've said over and over and over again, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. This isn't normal. This isn't normal. And the problem is there's so many people that haven't even been in this industry long enough to know what normal is, and unfortunately they've made buying decisions based on this abnormal last 2 years or so, 3 years. And boy, there's going to be some problems. There's going to be some negative ripple effects from that. One I thought about the other day, I haven't really heard anybody talk about. And that is that that in this industry, insurance, physical damage insurance, is called stated value insurance. And what that means is that it doesn't really matter you can choose whatever value to put on your truck that you want. And you can pay the premium based on that choice you make. And as we well know, when it comes time to file the claim, no matter what you decided to value it at, and no matter what premium you paid, the claim is only going to be paid for what at that moment, the current market value is of the truck. Mm-hmm. And I got to thinking about that. Trucks right now are outrageously priced, and people are paying it. And people are paying it, So what happens if you pay double for one of these trucks? And next year, or even later this year, whenever this bloodbath happens that everybody's talking about, and the value of these trucks plummet, which they will, if you finance that truck and you wrecked it, you could get paid the payoff on. You could get paid the value of the truck. The total value of the truck, and still not be able to pay the loan off. You could still owe half the value of the truck, and nothing, and you just have to pay it out of your pocket,
or you bump into the limit, the 25, 30, like, $25,000, $30,000 limit. There's so many things, which is what we try to do here, right? We're trying to get people to think a little bit outside the box. They've been so programmed by their carriers and by the kind of corporate news media to believe things that just aren't true. And then there are things that are true. They're just oblivious to the fact of how this insurance works. And of course, we've had a couple of totaled trucks now, so we've learned a lot through that process. But people are not thinking beyond today. And that's a big problem. I was looking at this article. Rachel Premack wrote this. She must have left Business Insider and is working for FreightWaves now. She was kind of
that's true. I saw that too.
I'm trying to find this line in here that I really keyed in on. Might take me a second to get to it. It was about. Here it is. Still, the plummeting freight rates are stressing out the many, many new truck drivers who started their own fleets or entered this industry in the past 2 years. Their experience of running a trucking business has been in an unusually favorable market. Some might not have previous experience running a business, so the plummeting rates, coupled with the spike in diesel, are a slap in the face. It's more like getting hit in the mouth by Mike Tyson, which generally only happens once. The people, you could fall off a log the last 2 years in trucking and make money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that leads a lot of people into what Larry calls the Landstar early retirement program, where you come as a company driver making 50, 60, 70 grand a year, right? And you get a truck and you come to Landstar in this market and you're making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week without really trying all that hard. You've effectively tripled, or in some cases quadrupled, the cash flow coming through the house, but you're not setting any of it back, or you're going, oh, well, if I work full time, I'll make $4,000 a week. I can only work 2 or 3 days a week and make the same or double what I made before.
Right.
And even we struggle here trying to get people to grasp the concept that if you are going to be in business, no matter what it is, if it's trucking or it's anything else, the first 5 years is going to have to be you working harder than you ever thought you could work, because something's going to happen. If you're in construction, the construction market's going to dip. If you're in trucking, the market's going to dip. Something is going to happen in the 5 years, the first 5 years that your business is open, that you're going to be challenged, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And if you don't have that saved up, you're screwed. And we even get people that come here and we try to, explain to them, number one, we've got a lot of mouths to feed. We got to feed the truck owner. We got to feed the driver. We got to feed Blue Ribbon. We got to feed me and Larry and all the management. And that takes a high level of utilization. But I see people like, well, I don't have to work that hard. No, you do. You do. You literally do, because we all do. I work 24/7, 365. I'm never off duty, and I'm okay with that. That's what I signed up for. But we don't, and my wife still hasn't grasped this concept. Like, I'm going on vacation, but I'm not really on vacation. I'm going to a thing with my daughter. It's some kind of bluegrass festival thing, and it's going to be up in the mountains of West Virginia. And I have found out there's no cell service, but they do have Wi-Fi at the hotel. I'm going to be on vacation, but I'm still going to be plugged in with what's going on, because I have to be. You can't escape it, and this idea that you can go home on Friday and turn it off, you can't do that. If you're going to be in business, you are in business. If you don't want to be in business 24/7, 365, don't get in business.
Well, not just in trucking, because we've said this many times, the first time owner operator buying the first truck, the failure rate is extremely high. But businesses of all type, 65% of all business will be gone in the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's several reasons. We've identified a lot of those, but most of those are people just do not understand the sacrifice it takes. They're not willing to do, they think they're going to get in business and be able to make all the decisions on their own. And that's really not the case. They're just like what you're saying right there. When you're a company driver driving for Anderson and you want a vacation, to hell with Anderson, right? You can give a damn if they had Wi-Fi or not. But when your name gets on the deal, and then you've got something in it that you've got skin in the game, it's a whole different story. Um, you've heard me say over and over again. Business is hard. The decision to buy a truck is easy.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to keep that truck in business is not. And then the thing that this last 2 years has done is it's sort of camouflaged that, because you could pay whatever you want to for a truck in the last 2 years and make the payment. Okay, I didn't recommend that, but you could, but all businesses have cycles. This one's no exception, and people that make the decision to pull back and work less to make the same money are really going to regret that now, because had they just kept working the same way they were before, they would have had all this extra cash. Well, they could have, they might not have had, but they had the opportunity to have cash, and then this quote bloodbath isn't quite as problematic. If you had paid extra payments on your truck that you paid too much for the past 2 years, because you could make 3 or 4 times what you did before and paid it off, the bloodbath wouldn't bother you right now. What the bloodbath is going to happen to people like you're talking about right here. They have too much truck payment, and they don't, and their cost of operation is way too high because they don't really care or know what the cost of operation is. Those guys are going to be in a big hurt.
Let me read this comment for the audio people. Timothy comments, a friend of mine has a square hood Pete that gets 5.5 miles per gallon and has $5,500 a month tractor and trailer payments. He has been doing okay, but he's getting real nervous now. Tell you what, he needs a bankruptcy attorney. He just needs to go ahead and call him up and say, listen, I don't need you today, but sometime in the next 3 to 12 months, we're going to be talking, because I'm going to be bankrupt. God almighty.
Yeah, that's not sustainable, and that's not even a really extreme example. Well, the 5 point, well, it's not. I was on ATBS numbers the other day. They came out with their most recent numbers. I thought I kept that somewhere. I might look for it in a minute. But we all know how good 2021 was. Yet the average owner operator's income just under 70 grand. Average owner operator's income just under 70 grand. The average of all ATBS, the average fuel mileage was the low sixes. And ATBS is 20,000 customers. Okay, so still the average owner operator is getting horrible fuel mileage and is making horrible. I mean, there's company drivers that make 70 grand. Okay, with no risk. I mean, Walmart just raised their. I got a tickle out of that. Walmart set what was the quote? Set the standard in trucking with 110. I said, well, we set a standard years ago, So, but I think about that Walmart thing, and I get a chuckle, because some of our guys go, yeah, that load right there paid $7 a mile. I'm like, dude, there's a reason why it pays that. Okay, if you can't get anybody to do anything, you have to persuade them. I'm thinking if Walmart had a 5-year waiting list that I remember they used to have, they wouldn't be paying 110 grand a year to start. Okay. So, anyway, people pay what they have to pay, but getting back to the bloodbath. Okay. Listen, there'll be some people that can adjust their operation and survive it. But here's what it's going to take. First of all, they're going to have to get a grip on their fuel mileage. Okay, that's we preach this all the time. Fuel mileage is no more than decisions. All right, and now you may have a truck that doesn't get great fuel mileage, but there's things you can do to make it better. The first thing you do, slow down. Most people drive way too fast.
But Larry, I can do an extra load every week if I drive faster.
Right. Of course you can. So, but you're gonna, why do you think listen, the big fleets have entire departments that figure bean counters everywhere. Okay. when they start slowing down trucks and putting speed limiters on trucks, they understand that saves them tons of money in fuel cost. Okay. Yet the one guy that's with the Pete, I don't give a rat's ass about fuel mileage. If I have to worry about that, I'm not getting enough rate. That's the attitude they take. But the bottom line is, listen, we have a 2000, or is it a 2001 classic?
One, I think. Yeah, so one.
Okay. That one of probably our best fuel miles driver in the fleet is in that truck now. Okay. This week he got 7.1, 7.3, 7.1
1, I think.
miles per gallon hauling platform stuff in that truck. So fuel mileage can be obtained, even in a classic Freightliner, squared off hood, big old ass bumper. It can be done. He proved it could be done. And when he was in what we call a lunatic truck, he was approaching 8 every week, or more. So, that's just all about you. You have to decide that you're gonna pay attention to what fuel costs, buy it right. There's a way to buy fuel properly. A lot of people don't know that. They don't understand it. They think they do, but they don't. And then, that's your number one cost. It can be, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 grand. There'll be a lot of people that could go out of business if they drop the 70 down to 50, they could stay in business. The other thing is not knowing their cost per mile. Somebody just asked, how do you figure out what your truck costs to run? Well, it's pretty easy. All you got to do is take all of your expenses and divide it by the miles you drive, and you'll know. But you need to know that. You need to know it every couple of weeks, because it will change. And but that's what and also your cost has to be in there. You think, well, I'll drive for free. No, you can't. Okay. You can't drive for free, because otherwise, how are you going to make money? You got to pay yourself. And if you don't pay yourself, then all of a sudden you're not going to be in business either. So,
well, and that's, from the fleet manager perspective here, I have the most interaction with all the drivers, and one common theme that I see, we try to, or we don't try, we tell people, you have to run this truck like it's yours. This is your opportunity to practice being an owner operator. You practice making decisions. You practice creating habits. And no matter how many times we say it, they just don't, it doesn't really sink in, because I don't know, part of it's probably like, well, I mean, of course I'll do that when it's my truck, but I don't have to do it now. It's Larry's truck. Okay. But you've got to have the habits of accounting. You've got to have the habits of keeping up with your receipts. You've got to have the habits of knowing your cost. You've got to have the habits of knowing when your next service is. But that's not going to just magically happen when you buy a truck. You're not going to all of a sudden go, oh, well, now I've ignored it the whole time I was in Larry's truck. But now I'm going to start paying attention, and now I'm going to start focusing on the details, and now I'm going to start thinking about when my next service is due. And that's what this program is for. The program is here for you to experience and taste and touch and smell all of these things. That, yes, Larry has all the habits. I've sat and watched him do accounting. It's incredible. The amount of detail that it takes to go through a 12 truck settlement once a week and make sure everybody gets paid, because first we got to make sure we got paid, and then go through and figure out whatever Landstar screwed up, and then turn around and make sure that everybody gets paid. You have to start creating those habits, and if you don't, you're going to be screwed, because then you don't know, well, how well am I doing? What's that line? Performance measured.
Performance measured, performance improves.
Performance measured, performance improved. If you're not measuring what you're doing, and I mean, it's a culture shock for anybody coming to Landstar, becoming an owner operator. it's mentally challenging. It's mentally taxing just to come and haul the loads. Not set aside all the other stuff, the accounting and the paperwork and so you if you're not prepared and you don't have all of those habits already created, uh, the mental stuff's going to get you, and then it snowballs, and because y'all, I've lived it.
Well, paying attention to your cost. You know, we teach this. You know, you can increase your income two ways. You can go out and work harder and raise your revenue. You know, do more loads, work more days, whatever you do. But you have a cost of doing that. Whatever your cost of business is, it still exists in that additional business. But if you take that effort and concentrate on lowering your cost, you save that first dollar and every dollar after that. There's no cost of business to lower your cost, you know. So it's much more efficient and it's much more effective to concentrate on cutting costs than it is on increasing revenue. You know, it's a work harder versus work smarter thing, you know. You know, a lot of guys, you know, that's their answer to the fuel mileage thing. Well, I don't care what fuel mileage is. I'll just haul into the load. Well, that load, if you're getting shitty fuel mileage now, you're going to get shitty fuel mileage on that other load too. And you're doing all this effort, and you're making a fraction of the money you would make if you just concentrate on cutting your costs, you know. And that's why slowing down makes sense. Okay, it slowing down cuts cost. Okay, speeding up adds a little revenue, but there's a cost to that. Slowing down, there's no cost to slowing down. Okay, and that's the easiest thing to do. You know, there's lots of other things you can do. We at the CMC, we came up with like 67 things that you can do to improve your fuel mileage. Okay. So there's tons of them that you can do, but they're little things. You know, you're not going to have these big heavy hits. Tires might be one of them. You know, probably the biggest one. Well, besides the driver, tires are probably the biggest thing that we see that affects fuel mileage. And people go, "Oh, well, what do you mean tires?" Well, there are tires that cost you money because they suck at fuel mileage. Okay, and there are tires that make you money because they give you such better fuel mileage. You know, everybody has opinion about wide base singles, but let me tell you something, okay? They save us money. I don't do anything in this business that doesn't affect, the bottom line. And if I thought that tires didn't matter, then we wouldn't do what we do. But I don't make decisions in this business about anything except whether or not it makes money or not. And it's we can go into this. I think we did a podcast on that one time, but I can prove to you that you could have tires in your truck that you could throw away right now and save money by doing it. But you got to do whatever it takes. Now is the time you got to do whatever it takes to get your cost per mile down. Okay, because the rate structure is not going to support it. Forget the fuel for right now. If you're at Landstar and the fuel surcharge and we 9 of our trucks this week, we had 10 trucks running this week. Okay. We've got 2 or 3 that are off right now. 9 of our 10 trucks this week made money on the fuel surcharge. Their fuel cost per mile was less than the fuel surcharge. And the fuel surcharge this week was 66 cents a mile. So the fuel thing is not the problem. That doesn't affect us a bit. And it really won't affect you a bit if you get your costs in order. But if you're running out here and your cost your cost to drive your truck is $2 a mile, that rate structure is not going to be there. You're going to be pulling that cheap freight that you're making fun of right now will be what you haul if you stay in this business, and that's why I always get a chuckle out of cheap freight. I've never yet seen anybody give me a definition of cheap freight that made sense. But anyway, I digress. What do you think about the bloodbath, Chris? I mean,
well, I purposefully put it in our title, and immediately hooked a couple in the jaw before we even started. It's going to be a bloodbath for some people. It's not going to be a bloodbath for us. We're not going to be in that situation. We weren't in that situation when you started in 2000. You weren't in that situation in 2009 or in 2014 or in 2017 or in 2019. And we weren't in 2020, and we're not going to be this time. And it was funny, I kind of refired my TikTok. Boy, the trolls are at it hot. Well, don't haul cheap freight. Landstar sucks. But like you've always illustrated, they can never quantify what cheap freight is. They will just don't haul cheap freight. Okay, well, how much per mile is that?
And we got a comment right here that's just not true. Cheap freight is not hauling before your costs. If your costs are $4 a mile, cheap freight's not. You're saying everything less than $4 is cheap freight. That's just not true. Okay, there is no such thing as cheap freight. It just doesn't exist.
No.
It might not work for you, but that doesn't mean it won't work for somebody else. And if your cost is so much that freight is cheap, maybe the problem is not the freight. Maybe it's maybe it's you. I get tickled about this freight wizard that's out there. So this rate wizard,
Yeah.
that there's some deity somewhere that sets the price of freight, and a lot of people in this business think it's brokers, Gas, freight's just like anything else. It's what the free market will pay. When it gets to the point where no one will pay it, then it will change. It's all about supply and demand. Right now we have way too many trucks and not near enough freight because everybody says freight's pulled back. Everything you look at, all the data points are there are less loads available right now to haul. Okay. But yet the number of trucks are still there. Now that will change. There's 1,100 trucking companies that are going out of business. All right. In 2009, 25% of MC numbers went out of business in 2009. My first year as an owner operator. And freight was fuel was almost $5 a gallon back then too. And so the market will adjust because the survival of the fittest here. The guys who can afford to run their trucks for what the market will pay will survive. The guys that want to modify the market to fit their cost structure will not. You cannot dictate the market based on what your cost is. That's not the market could give a rat's ass about your cost. Okay, the market's going to pay what the market's going to pay.
It's I book 50 to 60 loads a week, and let's say that our minimum daily rate right now is $2,000, and we want to do $10,000 a week. So 5 $2,000 loads. Well, I have to make a calculation. Sometimes I'll see a $3,500 load that goes 900 miles. Well, that's essentially a 2-day load. Now, if I can pick it up early on day 1 and deliver it in the early afternoon of day 2, I could technically find a $500 load to deliver day 3, and I'm at my minimum rate. Well, $500 loads, that's cheap freight. Okay. But in the breadth of what I'm doing in a week, did it matter? No, it didn't matter. We've got to get away from this idea that my voluntary cooperation and association with another person is any of your business and somehow affects you in some way. That if I haul a load for a rate that I'm somehow doing something to you. That's not how economics works. It's how communism works. But anyway, back to taking responsibility for things. When I had a dedicated customer at Landstar for 2.5 years, when I went on vacation, I would not dump that in the agent's lap and say, listen, I'm out of here. I would go find somebody I would network through Facebook, or I would call friends, and I would find someone for them to cover that load that week. So when we took the entire fleet to the truck show, that load was uncovered, right? And I called the agent and I said, "Hey, I'm going to I'll put some Facebook posts up in the Landstar groups and see if I can find somebody to cover this load." Okay, this load pays on average about $5,000 a week and takes a little less than 3 days to do, and it's super easy. It pays round trip. You get paid to come back empty, and the customer pays all the tolls. Okay. I put it up, and these morons in these groups are like, "Well, it's going to sit there until you get back for that kind of money," you know? And fortunately, what they did was, with all of their virtue signaling nonsense about how stupid I am and how terrible the customer is and how terrible the agent is for having such garbage freight on our board, they stirred up so much crap that one of our mentoring clients saw it and called me. He's like, "Hey, man, I'll cover that load for you." And he covered. Matter of fact, I think he's watching right now.
He is.
And he covered it for us, right? He just said it did.
They did pay good.
John made some good money that week.
Thanks, John, for covering that. By the way,
Yeah, we appreciate you. But think of the lunacy of that. Because when the bloodbath happens, guess what's going to happen to that rate for that dedicated lane? It ain't going to change.
Right.
Especially in the early, the first 2 to 6 weeks, when things are going to be very, very difficult and rates in the spot market are going to tank big time, probably down into the $1.50 range. Everybody's going to lose their mind, and everybody's going to be screaming and crying and weeping and gnashing of teeth. But that contract freight's still going to be there. Well, guess who has been taking care of these direct customers? Had one call me the other day. She had a load that wasn't great. It didn't really fit our parameters, but I had a guy available, and she's like, "Hey, can you, I just had a truck fall off this. Can you help me?" Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. It was a couple $100 under what we normally do, but it was dropping hook on both ends. It was an easy load. And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm going to help you." Because when it hits the fan, these agents are going to remember who took care of their dedicated customers that they worked very diligently to keep. And can you imagine what it's like being, well, of course you can't imagine what it's being like being an agent because you don't care. But think about it for a second. You're an agent. You're trying to go out and beat the street and get direct customers in an environment like this. And then nobody will haul it. It's just insane. That, and it's ignorance, and give me one soapbox for a minute, because part of this ignorance is baked in from day one of the training process. And I never would have believed after 25 years that I would get experienced drivers, because we have to have experienced drivers here at Landstar that can't read a map, that can't do basic math. And they're so, and they're programmed that way by this industry, and it makes my blood boil. The way these big carriers, Schneider, I'm talking to you, U.S. Express, Prime, all y'all bastards, every one of you, I'm calling you out because you suck. You are screwing people over with your useless training program, where you train people to be robots so that they can't ever get outside of your system and make any money.
Oh, but they have lease purchase programs, Chris. Come on.
It's got me all choked up. Anyway, I got my soapbox for a minute. Let's go back to 2020. I think Zeke and I were talking about this the other day, because I went back to our 2020 spreadsheet, and he was like, "Well, how bad was it?" And I went and looked, and for about 6 weeks, it was a real struggle to find loads. Now, I don't think, because somebody up here in the comments, I'll go back and see if I can find it, but it was about China. Well, there's some crazy stuff happening in China right now. They have 20 million truck drivers in China. So that's what, 7 times how many we have. And they are being literally locked in their cabs right now and not allowed out. Things are bad, which is obvious. There it is. Do you think the bullwhip effect from China will delay the bloodbath once they open up again and volume skyrockets? I think this is certainly a possibility because we saw this from the first round of lockdowns in 2020. We kind of did see a bullwhip where, you know, we did and we didn't because we had so much, we can only bring in so much freight at the ports. And as we learned from Sarah a few episodes back, the East Coast can't handle those big ships. They can only come to the West Coast. So, what I'm thinking that might be happening right now that we're not thinking about is that a lot of people that were depending on China has become this kind of unreliable source. Are manufacturers either trying to make stuff here or other places that they don't have to deal with China? Because what China's doing right now is not sustainable long term. I mean, they can't keep putting the barrel of the gun in their own mouth and pulling the trigger like this. They're going to have to get back on the horse and start shipping and manufacturing. So it's certainly possible, I would say, that when China opens back up, which is supposed to be first part of May, so they say, you know, I don't know. It might happen. It might not happen. We're more likely, I think, to see just a cooling off period because we're having the same kind of deal that we had in 2018. Everybody and their brother went and bought a truck because it's easy to make money in trucking right now. Well, once that volume and capacity gets out of whack, like it did in 2018, it eventually caught up in 2019, and then we had a dip. I think the dip this time will probably be bigger. And like 2009, 25% of MC numbers went away. And so if 25% of carriers go out of business, they will go out because the rates have dropped to an unsustainable level for their operation, and that's Mr. $5,500 truck payment. So
I want to address something that somebody said here earlier. You're talking about the type of people that these carriers produce, these robots, and then someone made the comment that we hire these types. Well, let me address that for a minute, because first of all, we don't really hire truck drivers here. Our program is it's definitely a 15-month business program that teaches people how to make money as an owner operator. And yes, we do accept those people in the program because that's what the industry produces. What we choose, the type of people we choose are, and we've got a guy here very, very successful that was a quote senior trainer for one of these big companies, and when he got here, he had no idea how to read a map. Matter of fact, he was told that if he varied from their routing on the Qualcomm 1 mile, they would fine him $50. So that's who applies. That's who wants to get in the program. But we don't hire them based on that. We hire them based on how badly they want to change their situation, how badly they want to become financially free. And trucking is a great way of doing that because it's the easiest way I've ever found to make money. Now, it's going to get a little harder here in the next little bit, but really not for us. I mean, we teach our guys to do what we do, and that's to go pay cash for a truck, keep your costs low, get the best fuel mileage you can. So we teach a program of how to make money in trucking. And if you come here and you can't read a map, that's not something that we judge you on. That's just something we have to teach you when you get here.
Well, listen, it was a shock for me. I would in 1997, I was taught how to drive a truck. Like We didn't have ABS. You had to learn stab braking. Everybody remember that? How much fun that was. I didn't have a Jake brake in my first truck, so I had to go off Eisenhower and Vale on I-70 in Colorado with no Jake. I had to know how to shift, you know, but we're hiring people based on attitude, not necessarily experience. Landstar has a minimum experience, obviously. But
There are people we would have hired, but Landstar won't let us because they don't have enough experience. But their attitude was exactly what we're looking for, and that's happened, Chris. I mean,
yeah,
a bunch.
well, I saw somebody had asked about box trucks
Yeah.
and the model, and I saw a TikTok the other day about this guy that had a box truck, was doing furniture deliveries, and he he had bought the truck and he had tried to get on with Amazon, but they wouldn't take him because he had a felony. So he ended up figuring out a way to go do it on his own without Amazon, and has built a pretty successful business. But there's been a couple of guys that we really wanted to hire based on attitude and all that, and they had some sort of criminal thing that we never knew about. But there's good people that we want to hire. I mean, hell, Zeke's wanting to come on here and drive his own truck, but he drives a fuel tanker up and down the mountains of West Virginia in and out of these god awful hollers. But that's not good enough. It's just insane, because growing up around here, all these coal truck drivers could drive a nice truck through hell, and they don't have over the road experience. It's such horseshit that people can get qualified that don't know how to drive a truck. They don't know how to shift. They've been stuck in these automatics, and then you get these trucks that we have, obviously, are older trucks. You have to know how to drive them, and it's a huge struggle. It's just insane that this industry is not teaching people how to drive trucks. They're teaching them how to be steering wheel holders that shut the hell up and do what they're told.
Yeah. Well, so the Bloodbath. I mean, now's the time. And, we still have. The fuel thing is has already happened, but we still have rates out there. Now's the time to make the adjustments. Okay, I mean, the storm's coming. Now's the time to batten down the hatches and get ready for it. But if you'll work on your fuel mileage and work on improving, your efficiency and lower your cost, you might be able to get through this. You really need to take a hard look at your truck. I mean, if trucks are selling for what they're selling for right now, and you've got one of those, why don't you just sell it and go work for somebody through this bloodbath instead of going bankrupt? If you can sell a truck now for double what you paid for it, sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Sell it. Go get a job, okay? And go get a job and save some money and ride out the storm, and then come out on the other end, and don't do that again. Go pay cash for a truck, and go pay cash for a truck that you can get fuel mileage out of.
It's either sell it now while you could get your money out of it, or sell it when you're in bankruptcy court, because it's going to happen.
So you got on you did a one man, I think, a TikTok thing this week that is getting a lot of attention. Why don't we touch on that just a little bit here, because some of our guys might not watch TikTok like me. I don't even know what it. I don't. TikTok is a watch as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I've got a grandfather clock that says TikTok over here.
So in case you don't know what TikTok is, it's basically videos that are 3 minutes or less. And so when you're going to put something on TikTok, you pretty much got to get to the point. You don't have time to dick around, and you've got to get to it. So there's a steady stream of nonsense in Landstar Facebook groups. And we had it at the at BCO days in Memphis. These people just so indignant and so offended that that a load was on the board and they called about it and it wasn't available. It was covered or it didn't pay what it was posted for. And so, and it never goes away, because I guess I'm going to call Landstar out a little bit here. I feel like they could fix this in orientation, but whatever, they don't. Okay. So I used my 3 minutes to say that at that time, there were 82,000 loads posted on the Landstar board. And if you take all of the indirect freight, 3PL freight off of the board, that number gets cut by about 90%. So that's about 8,500 direct shipper loads posted on the board. Now, sidebar, we all understand that there are a lot of direct loads, thousands of them, that never get posted on the board because, like with us, I get a load every Thursday for the following week. There's no reason to post that load. And so there are thousands and thousands of loads every day that don't get posted on the board because they're direct freight and they're already covered. Somebody's doing them regular. Okay. So in order to feed 11,000 trucks, we need to be able to pull loads that are not direct shipper freight, meaning that a Landstar agent does not have a direct relationship with that customer. We need loads from JB Hunt. We need loads from CH Robinson. We need loads from TQL. We need loads from ABC and DEF. Okay. Well, somebody's got to get that load for us. I can't call, and I'm not going to get a DAT subscription or truckstop.com subscription. I'm not going to pay for that. That's what my 35% is for. Okay. So the Landstar agent is going to either have relationships, and there are plenty of 3PL agents, copy and paste, bait and switch agents that have direct relationships with CH Robinson, and I can tell you, I could probably rattle off 3 or 4 names right now of people in Ukraine that if the load is posted, it's good. There's no question. They know who the representative is on the other end. Is it a direct customer load? No, it's not a direct customer load, but it's a direct relationship between that agent and whoever that 3PL is. So I have to book probably 70% of our loads are not direct customer. So put yourself in the position of the agent for a second. All right. An agent sees a load on DAT. They cannot call that broker until they have a truck. How do they get a truck? They post it on the Landstar board for, one, what they think a BCO will call, and 2, a measure of what they think the broker will actually pay. So they post it. All right, I think I can get this load for $2,200. BCO calls. Hey, I'm calling about this load from A to B. All right, hang on a minute. Let me call the customer. And they call the customer. Customer says, yeah, we're only paying $2,000 on that run. Well, I've got a truck and he'll do it for $2,200. Well, we're only paying $2,000. That's bottom dollar. So then you go back to the BCO and you say, hey, they only want to pay $2,000. Now, this is where a business person would go, well, I know what my cost is, and I know, I know what I can do and what I can't do. $2,000 is a good rate for that. I'll take it for $2,000. But that's not what they do. They bitch and whine and scream, and you lied to me and blah, blah, blah. But none of that is actually happening. That's not what's actually happening. But the agent cannot call DAT or truckstop.com or whoever and say, hey, I want to book this load. All right, what's the truck number? Well, I don't actually have a truck yet. I'm going to post it on a Landstar board. That's not happening. They have to have somebody call them first before they can call the broker and say, I have a truck, and here's what we'll do the load for. Now, in a market like this, it's easy. There's been plenty of times where they'll have it posted for $2,200. They'll come back and be like, hey, man, I got for $2,400. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. One of the funniest comments on the TikTok is there's a line in there. I said, you realize these agents are trying to do you a favor. They're trying to get freight for you. And these truck driver morons in the comment section, that's funny. An agent or broker trying to do something to help you. Yes, You can't do what you do without them. Idjit. You have to have them as much as they have to have you. And I can't even imagine the emotional, psychological abuse that is handed out on a daily basis to agents by BCOs. And by the way, and Larry can testify on this one, y'all realize that there are agents with direct customer freight that would rather use an approved carrier than a BCO?
Absolutely.
Why is that? Why is that? Maybe because they're jackasses that won't answer the phone, that won't communicate, that won't send an email, that won't tell them what's going on. But an approved carrier, that might be a company driver in a carrier's truck. Well, that company driver is going to do what the hell they're told to do by their carrier. And of course, that carrier has a lot more risk than a BCO does, which was another TikTok that I did. Somebody's like, well, why lease to Landstar? I said risk management. Risk management. That's probably the biggest thing that Landstar provides us for that 35% they take from us is risk management. That we wouldn't have that if we were a carrier. And so these carriers are more motivated than BCOs because BCOs think they're company drivers, so I did all that in 3 minutes, right? So it shows my immense level of talent when it comes to producing social media content. But I love Richie's. Y'all just go read Richie's comment. I can't put it on the screen. He'll get me kicked off YouTube. You have to be a servant if you're going to make it in business. And if you're at Landstar, the agent is your customer. That's your customer. Keep treating them like garbage and see what happens to you. Because I'm telling you, when it hits the fan, and it's going to hit the fan, I can't predict it. I don't know the day and the hour, but it's coming. And when it does come, guess who they're going to call? Old Blue Ribbon. Because Blue Ribbon's been taking care of them this whole time. And all these chicken shit a-holes that bitch and whine and complain. If I was an agent right now, I'd be taking notes on these Facebook groups. I'm going to find that guy's truck number. He's never going to haul the load for me.
You don't know that they're not.
Well, that's true.
BCOs think that they're the only ones with no haul lists. Got news for you.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes you call and that load's not available, but it's still on the board? Maybe it just wasn't available to you.
That's a possibility. Well, and let me put this little nugget in here, okay? We started on our spreadsheet. I got a big spreadsheet that we keep for all, keep track of all this. And used to be, if a load canceled or something happened, I would just delete the entry and overwrite it. And I stopped doing that, and now I just highlight it in orange so that at least I know that there had been a load there, because it might have been Richie. Somebody called one day and called an agent and said, well, you canceled on us 5 times. Oh, no, I don't think so. So now I'm keeping track of everything, every truck order not used, every load canceled, whether we had to cancel because we had a breakdown or something happened. And I'm keeping notes on all that stuff, because if somebody wants to say, oh, well, you did this, that, and the other. No, I got the documentation.
Well, I know we get a lot of Landstar listeners here. I know we get a lot of BCOs here. We are available to mentor, coach, dispatch. We don't have a lot of availability, but we do have some. And if you want to be serious about getting your business squared away and getting ready for what's going to happen, we'd be more than happy to talk to you. And we're fee based. If we're going to dispatch for you, we're percentage based. But I'm sure a lot of you do fine at dispatching, but maybe you're just not where you need to be business wise. If you don't have an accounting system, if you're not keeping up with your expenses, if you're using ATVS and you're just taking the package they send you and throwing it in the corner and not opening it up and look at it and analyzing your operation, then you really need to consider having some help. Business is about business, and unfortunately business involves numbers. And, that's what we do here very, very, very well. And we'll be glad to talk to you.
Well, I've got it on the screen. Let's talk about it just real quick. So it's 3 phrases. Increasing your revenue. I will dispatch. Well, me or Seth one. We'll dispatch for you, and we will increase your income. I am the trip planning ninja. And I got plenty of people that'll testify to that fact. It's one thing for me to pick your loads because I'm really good at it. And I can get your revenue up. But I think and I think John and some other guys are here in the comments can probably testify. I'm really, really good when things go wrong. Load cancels or something happens. Well, you're in the middle of it. You're out there. You're trying to drive and all this stuff. Well, that's when you really get in deep is when you can call the old trip plan ninja, and I will get you back on the road. I had one last week where the agent changed the destination 3 times. First, we were going to Indy. Nope, we're going to Michigan. Okay, great. So I tore all that down. I went to Michigan. Got a bunch of loads lined up. Well, that one got on hold. We're going back to Indianapolis. I had to call and tear all that down and put it all back together. That's where I excel. That's where I'm really, really, really good. Phase 2 is understanding the Landstar system. This is where, people don't know. They don't know how to download their settlements. Like it's crazy the number of people that come here. And, Larry always says Landstar is an equal opportunity place. They put you through a couple of days of orientation, give you a login to Landstar board and a fuel card, pat you on the butt, and wish you the best of luck. If you figure it out, you figure it out. If you don't, you don't. We can help kind of demystify the system, show you how to get to everything, get your settlements, understand how to find things, how to stay compliant. And then phase 3, improving your bottom line, and that's business coaching and showing you how to lower your costs. Because like Larry said, $1 saved is $1 earned. You're always better to save $1 than you are to go spend 50 cents to make another $1, because then you're only making 50 cents.
Well, if you don't know what your fuel mileage, if you don't know to the 10th of a percent or penny what your fuel mileage is, then you're not doing yourself justice. You're in business to make money. If you don't know what your costs are, how do you know? And if you don't know what your cost per mile is, there's no way you'll never survive the bloodbath if you don't know your cost per mile. You will be a casualty early on. These are things that we teach. There's a business side of trucking. We don't teach how to back into a dock. And I mean, other than the dispatching thing that Chris does, we really don't do much about the trucking part of it. What I do is the business side of it, getting your business healthy, and understanding that you have to know it's not just having the numbers, it's looking at them and understanding what they are and what effect it's going to have on you and how you can go about improving them. That's what it's all about, So we can work with you and help you do that, assuming that you want to do that. And of course, if you don't have an accounting system or you don't have a bookkeeping system, we can either help you with that or we can even do it for you. So that's the optional side of this. But if you have an interest in percent, now this is for BCOs only. We don't do it for outside other carriers. It's only for Landstar BCOs. And reach out to us and we'll send you this information. And again, keep in mind though, we probably have, what would you say, Chris? Maybe 5 slots at best.
Yeah.
So first 5 or the best 5 get it. So, and it's a 6-month renewable program. It's a 6-month program, and you can renew at the end of 6 months if you want to. I think John Reynoldson's on here. He's one of our mentoring clients. He just renewed for his second 6 months. So I think he probably would witness that Chris has made him a buttload of money. And but anyway, so
that'd be $216,800 in gross revenue since I started dispatching for him. I started tracking that the other day.
Okay.
It's not bad for 20 weeks.
That one of the Landstar guys that was at our company dinner the guy from Arizona, he was pretty impressed with the fact that, we're our well, we don't hit it every week, but our goal is basically $10,000 a week per truck over 50 weeks. Of course, the guys take off for the holidays. That's $500,000 a year revenue. That blew him away.
Mhm.
The average BCO takes 1.7 loads a week, right? So he was pretty impressed with the fact that we got dry van people here doing general freight, doing $500,000 a year revenue to the truck, our revenue. So
There, there's a little side conversation going here in the comments. I want to address this. Nomadic Brit. I'll just grab this one. He's an independent contractor with Schneider because I took a little shot at Schneider. And his lease to own have done extremely well. Different people for different holes. But it must be a British thing, or a really unfortunate typo. But Schneider has done me well. Okay, well, so let me say this: I spent a couple years at Schneider, and I did well there. Any of these big companies, pretty much, if you work their system the way their system is set up, you'll make money. You'll be fine. It used to be they'd have these operating centers around, and I ran into this new dude like straight out of training, like in Charlotte, and he's like, "Oh, what's the first thing I should do?" I said, "Stay out of this room, right? Because the bullshit is so deep in this room right here. Just don't talk to anybody. Just go get in the truck, keep your mouth shut, learn how to do your stuff, and you'll be fine." Now, in recent years, I really have a bone to pick with these big carriers, the way they're training people. But here's what I wanted to say. The reason that I put Landstar on a shelf up above everybody else is that there is no ceiling. You can go do specialized van. You can go do specialized flatbed. You can go high, wide, and heavy. Like, you can get into some really, really astronomical numbers of stuff that you can't do anywhere else because they just don't have that. A lot of them have like kind of the general freight. In your case, you're doing bulk, and I'm sure it's great money there. But here, what we're doing, y'all, is with a dry van. I mean, just think about that for a second. $500,000 per truck pulling general freight. We don't have any special equipment Williams doing platform now with Conestoga. But these numbers are with dry van general freight. We're not doing anything special. There are people here at Landstar that are doing specialized stuff with oversize and with military contracts and ammunition and explosives. And we were at BCO days, and I was hanging out with one guy, and he pulled his phone out of his pocket. He showed me a couple of freight bills, and I'm like, "That's for one load." And he was like, "Yeah, it was one load. It took us about 4 days. It was $30,000. That's the kind of stuff that you can achieve at Landstar once but again, you have to survive the first 5 years of business in order to do that. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get you to a place where if you want to go pay $250,000 for a damn big house sleeper, do it. Just pay cash for it. But you can't do that with your first truck. All right, I'm done.
Well, it's not that we put down other carriers. What we put down, though, is the lease purchase program in any carrier, okay? Because it's a ripoff. And if you don't believe it, take your lease purchase contract to an attorney and pay him and he'll tell you for several $100s what I just told you for free. But the problem with look, we're at Landstar, and I would not be anywhere else. But Landstar is not without its faults, and I mean, I tell them that. I'm surprised they even interview me on the podcast, because I told them up front. I said, "Look, I'm not gonna dance around things here. You may cut them, you may not use them, but I'm not gonna pussyfoot here. We're gonna talk real. That's how I work, But there's no way that I would do what we're doing anywhere else, because no place else. It doesn't matter. I mean, Schneider Choice, none of those things, even Mercer, does not have the ability for us to control our own freight that we have here. Okay. Not being able to stack loads, not being able to, not all we are a business in business with a business. And there is no ceiling, as Chris said. There is no ceiling. What I do here is much different than what most BCOs do here. But that's the beauty of Landstar, is you have the flexibility of doing business the way you want to do it. There's guys here that you can kind of stereotype people and go, well, hell, they only did 1.7 loads a week. Well, that might be a farmer that farms 6 months out of the year and just drives the other 6 months. And at Landstar, that works fine. There's no problem out here. So, I just, we sometimes talk bad about other carriers, and it's not so much the carrier. At least I work for one. I work for Transport America, and I still recommend them. The opportunity there is not what it is here. They tried several times to hire me back after I left. And I said, dude, I can't. You guys can't touch what I'm doing here. And he even tried to come out with some kind of program where you could pick your own loads. I said, that's not what it's about. But anyway, the thing that we preach against here, if you've listened very much, is that we're very, 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 very much anti-lease purchase. We're very much finance. Pay cash for a truck. Now, look, you've been doing this for 10 years, and that's a different story. But if you're a first-time owner operator buying your first truck, that's who our audience is. Okay, the rest of you are welcome to hang out and stay, but that's our audience. That's who we're in business to help. Is the first-time owner operator buying the first truck. So,
well, it's unfortunate that an industry like this, there was, I put up a TikTok where on the 5-year anniversary of my failure, April 7th, and I just, said, hey, this is what happened in 3 minutes. It was my fault. And there was a comment that was so interesting to me. He goes, well, are you sure you failed, or it wasn't just the trucking industry preying on the weak? And I'm like, no, it was 100% me. Does the trucking industry prey on the weak? Possibly. Maybe the elephant in the room is we should talk about why they're so weak and how easily they can be taken advantage of. But it's just funny that I come out and say, look, this is what happened, and it was my fault. No, it wasn't your fault. It was the manufacturer's fault. I'm like, you want me to blame Detroit Diesel? Really? I don't know. It just baffles me that people have a real problem with taking responsibility for their own failures and always looking for somebody to blame. And, let's see, here's a comment. Do you guys have any advice for a person who just obtained my CDL but doesn't have any driving experience and would rather stay away from the mega carriers? Okay, so you have your CDL, which means I'm guessing you went through a school. If you didn't go through a school, it's going to be hard to go. There are some small carriers, they're just not easy to find. That's what I would do. A friend of mine that I used to run team with 20 years ago had let his CDL go and, did a barbecue restaurant and then decided to get back into trucking. He went and got and tested and was able to obtain his CDL, but he didn't go to a school, and he found a company. I think it was Thomas Keller, something Keller, up in Defiance, Ohio, and they brought him on and trained him and all that stuff. So I know they're out there. But you've got to wade through, all of the Swifts and Schneiders and all that. I can't say don't go to Swift and Schneider, but if you're going to, just go in knowing that they're not going to give you everything that you need. You're really going to have to self-educate, which is the case in anything, you know. There was one comment on my TikTok that said, well, let's be honest, my teachers in school told me to stay away from truck driving because it was a bunch of human traffickers and meth heads. Okay, well, that's why my kids are homeschooled. Um, you know, it's insane. But so if you're going to do it, search and search and search and search and search. Pick up the phone and start calling people. I have a CDL. I want to be trained, but I don't want to go to Shift and Schneider. I bet you're going to find them. I just don't know how without doing some legwork.
You don't have to buy an old Columbia. You can buy anything you want to. Just buy pre-emission with a Detroit engine.
What would be a good price to pay for a truck cash being 2007 or older? Unfortunately, right now, 20 to 25. Now, if you wait for the Bloodbath, you'll get it for 5 to 10. But right now, we're seeing the trucks that we would purchase are in the 20 to 25,000 range right now.
Well, up to 40. They're actually up to 40.
But it's in a normal market, you should be able to find. Zeke paid $5,500 for his. Now he has 40 in it, so I would tell you, be prepared to spend 40 to 50 to get it right. But your acquisition costs, if you're careful and patient, you could get one under 20,000. So here's our platform guy. This is Phil Freese. He's our dispatcher for platform and a heavy haul guy. Landstar's billing system will only allow them to bill $99,999 on a single freight bill number. There are loads that have been hauled at Landstar that required multiple load numbers in order to cover the complete cost of the customer. That doesn't happen at your standard big box carrier. Imagine getting paid more than $100,000 to do one load.
Let me go back to that comment about the Columbia. I gotta. It's
but what if I don't want an old Columbia?
Let's talk about that, okay? And you're probably just screwing with us, but again, understand what we're doing here. First time owner operator buying the first truck. What we're trying to do here is minimize. Listen, I could give a rat's ass about Columbia or Freightliner or Peterbilt. What we're trying to do here is teach you how to minimize risk so that you don't become a casualty, so that you can live through a bloodbath. All right. It just so happens that the truck that has the least risk, or the engine that has the least risk, is the Detroit Series 60. Okay. It's the easiest to work on. You can get it worked on at any Freightliner or TA Petro in the country, most independent shops. Anybody that's ever worked on a diesel has the ability to work on a Series 60. You don't have to go to the dealership and stand in line for 3 or 4 weeks waiting to get looked at. So that's the only reason we say that. Listen, if it's all about just getting in business and staying in business, okay? And if you're getting in this business because the kind of truck you're going to drive, you're going to fail anyway. All right. This is a starter truck. This gets you going. This gets you going for the first 3 or 4 years and gets you over the hump where you've got money in the bank and you understand how to stay in business. Then if you want to go out and buy a 120-inch ATRI sleeper, knock yourself out, but pay cash for it, So our whole thing here is not about what truck we drive. And that's another, when we hire people, when they call us, if they're asking about what kind of trucks we're driving, we pretty much end that interview pretty quickly. Okay. Because that's not what it's about here. It's about staying in business. It's about being able to get through this bloodbath everybody's talking about on the other end. It doesn't matter what kind of truck you drive to get through that. It's just a matter of having it paid for, having a shop that's easy to get to work on it and keep it running. And oh, by the way, you don't have any Series 60 sitting on the side of the road right now waiting on sensors that are on a ship come from China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Even all these hard-to-get overhaul kits I keep reading about, I bought 3 of them in the past 3 weeks. By the way, I have one. Okay? Highest bidder. What do y'all want to give me for it? Okay?
Here's the other thing about the Columbia, okay? You got to keep this in mind. Columbia Century platform. Now, it's going to sound crazy, but I would rather have a Columbia than a Century because Century headlights suck. They're terrible. But John made this comment. John Raines says, I rebuilt the whole interior of a Columbia for $2,000. All right. I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm looking over on the table. My sister bought my 7-year-old a little toolkit for like his birthday or something, and he loves it. And inside that toolkit is a T25 Torx bit. I could take that my 7-year-old's toolkit and replace the entire interior of a Columbia with that toolkit. It's got a hammer, it's got some wrenches, and it's got a T25 Torx bit. Because you can literally, I can have the whole dash out in less than an hour. And for a few $100s, I can put a whole new dash in a Columbia. It's a very, very simple truck. It's not flashy and it's not all that comfortable, and but it is so easy to work on. And so the cost of operation of a Columbia compared to a Volvo, I've got my 2 dispatch clients. One's got a damn Volvo and the other one's got a Peterbilt. Okay. I went to the local Peterbilt dealer to pick up exhaust parts, right? And he gave me a comm check. He was like, hey, these exhaust parts are in. Will you run down and pick them up for me? I'm coming through. And I'm like, sure, man. And I'm like, how much is it? He's like, oh, it's like $980. And I'm like, okay. So I got the comm check and I walked in there. Y'all, I got a 90-degree elbow. I got a flange coming off of the turbo and one other piece for $900. I could have bought that stuff for a Columbia at the Freightliner dealer for $200. The Volvo, God, man, don't even get me started on the Volvo. I mean, I love our Volvo. It gets great fuel mileage when the right driver's in it. But the prices for these parts are insane. But not with a Columbia.
Even the key is $35.
Oh, I know.
Key blank.
Well, so our Volvo had an ABS problem, and Carl spent about 8 hours with a voltmeter. I mean, it was painful to watch. And what he found was, there's a connector. It's 2 sides of a connector, and basically inside one of the connectors, a wire had broken. And he's like, well, why don't you call up there and see how much this harness is? Okay, y'all, this harness was not 4 feet long. It was $1,800 for a 4-foot harness. I used a VIN number because it's all Bendix. It's all the same stuff, right? So I called the Freightliner dealer and I'm like, hey, what would this harness from the ABS module back to the sensors cost for a Freightliner? It was like $72, but it was $1,800 at the Volvo dealer. That's the thing. You got to get comfort out of your mind.
That's the reason that we use a Freightliner. That's the reason why we use those 2 trucks, is because it's cheap to operate. And look, you're not getting in business to impress somebody. If you are, you're going to fail anyway. You're getting in business to stay in business. And I mean, look, there was a whole seminar at Matt's about why owner-operators get in business. And it was interesting to see what some of the things. But the most people did it because they wanted to control their own destiny. Well, the only way you do that is stay in business, okay? If you buy a truck, or go lease a truck, go finance a truck, and you fail after a couple of years, you didn't accomplish anything you said to do. Matter of fact, you set yourself back because now you're probably bankrupt. Why not do it right the first time? That's why they call us lunatics. So we don't do it the way everybody else does, okay? Mm-hmm. Why don't you just do it? Why don't you do it the safe way? So that when it's all said and done, that you'll still be in business after the bloodbath. Okay. This isn't new to us. I started this in 2009. Okay. And so, this bloodbath, I just laugh at that bloodbath. We'll see, Well, listen, we've been going a while. We do need to make a couple of other things. We, from a recruiting standpoint, we have got a couple, 3 trucks we're bringing on. And we are still looking for the right candidates. So if you haven't checked us out, you haven't reached out to us, you want to get in our program, learn how to do all this, do it in our truck where we're the one taking the risk. Chris, you got the the link there that you can put up. I put you on the spot, didn't I? Shouldn't have done that.
You talking about the form?
Yeah, the Drive for Us or wherever they go to submit the online questionnaire.
It's blueribbonlogistics.com/drive-4-us. You can also go to just drive4blueribbon.com, and it'll take you to this page.
I thought you had those banners say where you could just bring them up. No?
Well, I did, but
Anyway, we need to get a new producer.
there it is. Found it.
There it is. Okay. So yeah, so if you're interested, reach out to us. You got to qualify for Landstar, so we got to get you that part, and then we'll talk to you about, your goals and that sort of thing. And it's we don't take everybody, we don't take anybody, we take people that we think are going to benefit from the program. So no hard feelings if it doesn't work out for you, but we're very selective. But the next thing we need to talk about is at the truck show, the conversation came up while we were standing around the Pittsburgh Power booth. And if you don't know this already, Pittsburgh Power bought OPS a couple months ago. And I've been an OPS customer since 2009. I've been very, very vocal about the product. I support it. Always have. I put it in my truck originally. We got it in every truck that we run. We have it in there. It's one of the things that lowers our cost of doing business because we don't throw good oil down the tubes. So we had talked to OPS right before they sold out to Pittsburgh Power about some sponsorship on this podcast. And right about the time we got ready to get serious about it, the person couldn't tell me, but he said, well, we need to hang on for a little bit. There's some things getting ready to change and that it might affect this. So we sort of let it drop. Well, that change obviously was the fact that Pittsburgh Power bought OPS. So the other thing is we do have a 2016 truck that we run, and we obviously are trying to minimize the risk of it. And the biggest problem you have with those emissions trucks, obviously, is the soot and that sort of thing, the DPF stuff. So we also became a customer, I guess, about a year ago of the max mileage catalyst. So we have become. I was an OPS distributor before Pittsburgh Power bought it. But now we are both an OPS distributor and a max mileage distributor. So if you're interested in either of those products, we can hook you up. We also are working. Well, we've worked the deal already. We're just going to finalize a few of the little details. But Pittsburgh Power is going to come on as an official sponsor of the podcast. So we're probably going to be doing a little bit more of this kind of thing that Chris is doing right now. We're going to have to show you their logos and their brands, and but they're going to give us a little bit of money to do that. And as much time as we spend doing this, it's worth it for us to get paid a little bit for it. So far, the only thing we really get out of this is the recruiting benefit of it. We don't really make any money on this. Actually, it costs us money to do it because of all the subscriptions that we have to renew with production stuff. But you can go on our website and you'll be able to order OPS stuff and max mileage stuff off our website. Chris, what am I leaving out here?
I think that, well, it's not on our website yet. It will be. We just got to get that set up. And all the shipping, we're putting the basic bones of this deal together right now. So, well, Timothy asked, I have a 2015. What do you think of max mileage? Well, so far, so good. We had this 2016 Cascadia with the DD15. When did we bring that truck on?
Last fall.
We put a team in it, and they had all kinds of, lights and issues. And so we took it to Precision Truck Solutions up in Coshocton, Ohio, and they did a diesel force cleaning on it. And we have been using the catalyst ever since. And knock on wood. We have not had any major emissions problems out of that truck. And they were concerned that the one box was bad, but they were able to do some tuning and changed a couple of sensors and cleaned some things out. And so it's been probably 8 months. There's plenty of our friend Steve Wheeler won a Landstar. He won the truck last year, I guess it was.
Last spring, the spring truck.
And has been using max mileage from day one. And he reports that, his DEF usage is very low. Now, Timothy also asked, did it increase mile per gallon? Now, I can't really testify this yet, but Richie has an
06.
It's 05 motor, 14 liter EGR. And we just started using the catalyst in it, and that truck has been a dog forever. And the fuel mileage has come way up on that truck. So, but correlation, causation, I can't testify that it's the max mileage.
But they don't represent it to increase fuel. I mean, it says, and they even admit the name's wrong. They chose the wrong name for it. It wasn't designed to improve fuel mileage. It was designed to improve emissions problems.
Yeah.
So
it's a soot reduction.
Soot reduction. It improves the combustion in the chamber. That's what it does. We spent a long time talking to the engineer who invented it. We talking about your eyes glazing over pretty quick.
Oh yeah, she'll get on a roll.
But it's not sold or represented to increase fuel mileage. That's not that kind of thing. It's just to help you not have DPF problems. Is what it's designed to do. And if you've already got a couple 100,000 miles or more on your truck, we recommend you go get the diesel force cleaning. Pittsburgh Power does that, as well as some other places that we use, and then start using the catalyst and keep it clean, because that's what it's designed to do, is keep the soot, from being an issue. So
Richie has commented, it worked amazing. No more hard idling in the morning. Don't spill it inside the truck though, because it stinks. Don't. Let's see, Big Chris. Max mileage is thumbs up. Been running it 2 years or so. Quieter engine, less DEF usage, and slightly better mileage.
So there you go. So, and look, you're going to get stories of people that can't see any difference, and there's some that do, but that's just how this stuff is, But we appreciate Pittsburgh Power. I've been a customer since 2009. I know Bruce. I mean, I've got his cell phone number in my phone. So we're
there he is. Steve Wheeler's in the house. 8.63 mile per gallon. No parked regens. 200,000 miles in 18 months.
Look at there. There's testimony for you. So, but anyway, we appreciate Pittsburgh Power coming on. Now, the other part of this is we had to agree to improve our frequency a little bit in this deal. So we've kind of committed to a every Sunday night, and we did it 8 tonight because Chris has to leave early in the morning to head to Florida. But what we're going to say is we're going to try our best to do a live podcast, whatever you call what we're doing here, every Sunday night at 9:00 Eastern. So that's part of our obligation to them in exchange for what they're doing for us. So,
Big Chris, if Richie only had somebody that could tell him ahead of time, hey, Richie, whatever you do not spill that stuff in your truck. I mean, I don't know where he's going to find that person that could tell him very clearly, whatever you do not spill this stuff in your truck. But, he just doesn't have that kind of help.
All right. Well, anything else there that we need to address or see you for dinner tomorrow? Oh yeah, you're going down to see Rocky tomorrow. So
yeah,
we're going down. We're going down to take another. I'm using one of my overhaul kits tomorrow. We're sending the truck down to do an in-frame down Jacksonville. So Chris is taking the truck down tomorrow, and we're going to get that done. So all right, everybody. Well, listen. Thanks for listening. We'll see you more frequently, obviously.
Yeah. See y'all next week.
Listen, let's get through this this rough patch coming up here these next few months, guys. Work on your fuel mileage, work on your business, your plan. Know what it costs you to drive your truck. If you need help, reach out to us. We'll be glad to try to talk to you. Okay.
Actually, programming note. We may be having an orientation next weekend, and if we do, that's up in the air. If we do, it will be another live broadcast from the hotel, probably on Saturday night.
On Saturday night. Weekends that we're at live events, we'll broadcast live on Saturday night. Big Chris, OPS is oil purification system. It's an oil filter bypass system on board a refinery. Basically, it takes the oil that's in your truck and that basically cleans it. So at the end of the day, you've got totally refined oil back in your truck again. So look at some of our podcasts about the Mercedes. I have a Mercedes that has 1.8 million miles on it. Everything on it's original except for a cracked head that was water related, bad design related, and it's had 4 oil changes in its life. So we won't go into that right now, but there are episodes that explain that. But it's the number one modification we do to every truck we operate is put the OPS on it. So it's an instant money saver. So
and William is reminded 3 or 4 times, and I should be doing this because we're YouTubers now. We need everybody to like and subscribe.
Yeah,
that helps the algorithm.
It also helps our sponsorship rate, by the way.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. The more we get of that, the better off we are.
Yeah, when we go to renew this contract, we need to have a whole lot more subscribers than we have now. So I know it is. I just paid my rig off. It might be my to-do. Absolutely. If you don't have an OPS, listen. You should have OPS on your lawnmower. Okay, there's no reason not to throw good oil away. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense. And the best thing about the OPS is the lab program, the lab sample program.
Larry's got a presentation that he does in our orientation. I maybe in the next couple episodes we'll just put that presentation up and let him roll through it.
Okay.
And because it's real once you understand how it works, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's literally one of the first modifications you should do on a diesel truck is put an OPS on it.
And if you're trying to lower your cost per mile, throwing away oil over 15, 20, 25,000 miles is a good way to start. Yep. Stop doing that. So, all right,
y'all. We'll see y'all next time.
Take care, guys. Thank you.